The Unwanted Echo. Chapter 1. The Return. I stepped off the bus, my eyes adjusting to the familiar sight of the town's quaint streets lined with homes I once called home. The wind carried a crisp autumn chill as leaves rustled through the oak trees and drifted in front of me like nature's confetti. Crestville was unaltered, frozen in time. Yet something fell off. As I gazed upon my childhood residence, a mix of nostalgia and trepidation tugged at my chest. The once warm haven now looked foreign, its beige siding dulled by time. My heart raced as I grabbed the single suitcase I'd brought with me. This was supposed to be a step towards healing, finding solace in memories that once brought me comfort. Lugging my bag up the walkway, I noticed an envelope pinned to the door. A gesture from Mom? No doubt. The familiar scrawl of her handwriting read, "Welcome home, Liam. Let's catch up soon." My fingers trembled as I inserted the key and pushed open the front door. A musty scent greeted me, heavy with years of abandonment. Inside, shadows danced across walls covered in yellowed photographs from a bygone era. My childhood, my family, my friends. The air felt thick with an unsettling stillness, weighed down by the silence that had taken up residence here during my absence. The first night passed without incident, but as darkness descended on day 2, I sensed it, an undercurrent of movement in my peripheral vision, a faint rustling of leaves even when the windows were closed. The next evening, my book slipped from my hands and clattered to the floor. I spun around, expecting no one, yet there was none. In the kitchen, a cabinet door creaked open on its own. My mind raced with paranoia, or something more. It wasn't until the third day that I dared voice these unsettling impressions aloud. Whispered conversations in my ears began. Liam, Liam, Liam. Each time, it seemed to grow louder, closer. A shiver crept up my spine as I questioned if I was losing my mind. Determined to regain some sense of normalcy, I ventured into town for supplies and ran into Mrs. Jenkins at the local market. Her eyes betrayed a mixture of curiosity and concern when I mentioned my return. "Strange things have been happening," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder as if afraid to be overheard. Whispers, thumps in the night, you know how it is. Her words resonated with an unspoken understanding. In town, only one other adult remained. Sarah, a childhood friend turned distant acquaintance. Perhaps finding solace would come through friendship. Sarah's house was aglow when I arrived at dusk. She'd taken over her parents' old bakery and transformed it into a cozy cafe. The aroma of freshly baked bread and steaming coffee enveloped me as we caught up on lost time, discussing everything except the unnerving events that had become my life's shadow. As night descended, I retreated home, but sleep eluded me. A floorboard creaked, drawing near the bedroom door. It took all willpower not to grab a flashlight and investigate. I settled for lying awake, each breath an act of defiance against the darkness. Hours later, the house hushed itself into an unsettling silence. A sudden chill had me turning on my side as if someone had brushed against my shoulder. Heart pounding, I turned to face the figure looming in the doorway, shadowy and imposing, even at a distance. Its presence seemed to fill the room. The air stilled, and it moved closer, its form slowly becoming more defined. Hooded eyes, sunken features. I couldn't breathe as it loomed over me. In that moment, I knew. It had been years since, but the face, once familiar, now twisted with malevolence. "Hello," a voice rasped, low and menacing. "I see you've returned." The apparition drifted closer still. "Welcome back to our town." My name escaped my lips on a shuddered sigh. "Ethan, His eyes held an unspoken malice as he slid into the room, his shadowy form blending with darkness. I thought him dead, lost in that fateful accident. In the flickering moonlight filtering through curtains, his face was marred by scars and something more sinister than any wound could cause. A hunger for vengeance. Chapter 2. The Echo. Sarah's warm smile was my reprieve from the unnerving reunion with Ethan. We met at her bakery daily, sharing our eerie experiences as if bonding over shared nightmares. Her own tales echoed mine. Strange noises, apparitional laughter in abandoned alleys. One evening, she mentioned hearing whispers too. I confided in her about Ethan's reemergence, but the truth of his resurrection remained between us for now. That night, my room was bathed in an ethereal glow when I awoke to find Liam scrawled across the ceiling, as if painted by unseen fingers. The echoes intensified, each syllable more prominent than the last. Li-am, li-um. My breath caught when Sarah stormed into my room, eyes wide with fear. I heard it too, she rasped. Out there, outside. We ventured out under a sickle moon, tracing the source of the echoes. The old abandoned house at the edge of town where Ethan's corpse once lay. Unmistakable whispers grew louder as we approached. Mm. Li.a.am. The voice sent shivers through me. It was then that a name began to surface within the cacophony, a name I hadn't heard in years. Ethan. The house loomed before us with gaping windows like empty mouths. A gust of wind extinguished my flashlight, plunging us into darkness. An icy hand brushed against my arm as Sarah clung closer. Liam, it called out again. I felt his presence behind me. My heart raced. Sarah. A piercing echo cut short my whisper as Ethan materialized in the doorway, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. He advanced, and we retreated until back against a wall of crumbling masonry. Sarah's breath hitched beside me. In the darkness, it was hard to discern if he or I moved first. Our legs scrambled for escape. His hand snatched at my arm, and Sarah screamed. The fingers that wrapped around my bicep were cold as stone. Ethan pulled us deeper into the abandoned home, down a narrow corridor that seemed to stretch on forever, leading to a cavernous room. In the dim light filtering from above, his face swam with an unholy hunger. You left. His voice echoed off walls not his own. You took my life, and now you will pay. I'd always assumed him dead in the accident. A glimmer of recognition crossed Ethan's disfigured features. A flicker of recognition laced with malice. The echoes, they were his voice, an insidious echo of a past I thought long buried. Sarah's body trembled against mine as Ethan dragged us deeper into the bowels of the house. In this forsaken place, our footprints echoed back in unsettling cadence. Each step resonated, drawing me closer to my demons. Chapter 3. The Confrontation. Ethan had us trapped in a dank cavern. Hey, he hissed again, his breath an acrid scent of smoke and regret as we were pushed toward the far wall. Ethan's gaze was not that of a man. It was that of vengeance incarnate. Sarah pleaded with me to run. I reached for her hand, and together we moved. Our footsteps were matched by the ghostly echoes. Li.mm. The cavern shook as he shouted, the ground crumbling behind us. Ethan lunged forward with a guttural growl. We broke through the rear wall into an alleyway, night air embracing us like a savior. Sarah and I sprinted, dashing past abandoned shops toward town lights. Ethan's cries were the wind itself. He'd never been right. He was never alive. His obsession for retribution echoed in the town's earthen heart. We burst into the bakery. Behind me, the door slammed shut with a final mangled wail. Oh, I.MM. In her arms, I sought solace, but found only fear and chaos as Ethan broke through the wall behind us, shattering glass and concrete alike. A maelstrom of shadows pursued, chasing us to the center table where Sarah's hands trembled over mine. The echoes had become an otherworldly symphony, driving him forward. In a flurry of motion, I lunged for a rolling pin as Ethan breached the entrance. His form coalesced into a human shape behind me. Twisted features, sunken eyes that had once been friends. The weapon caught him across the temple with a sickening thud. In that moment of victory, our bond solidified. Sarah's hands tightened around my own. Together we watched his body crumple in unnatural silence. I glanced at her. She nodded. Ethan was never more than an echo of hate. Revenge given voice by a house and its secrets. The echoes stilled as he died on the floorboards. In the silence, the name Ethan faded to silence then, leaving only one. Oh, MM. Liam. My name had become the haunting melody Ethan left behind. M. Transformed into Li.M. Liam. Li.am. The echoes faded. Sarah's hands gripped mine more tightly as we stared at his lifeless form. We'd silenced Ethan, but I feared it was not the end. In the days that followed, the cacophony continued to build. I could feel the house exhaling my name, a relentless reminder of unfinished scores and vengeance. Our breaths synchronized as we faced him. One last echo before he slumped, life extinguished once more. It was then that Ethan's corpse disintegrated, his essence merging with the earth. The ground trembled, spewing forth something I thought buried, something ancient and wronged. With each step, an unsettling resonance grew from my name. Li.am, Liam, Liam. In a burst of light, he stood before us. He was Ethan no more. The echoes had birthed him anew. And so they'd continue to haunt me, until I made amends with what we'd left buried in that damn place. I turned to face my fate, an unending echo seeking justice and peace.